He's the author of 18 books, including the best-selling, go back and get his picture. We'll introduce Kevin. He's the author of 18 books, including the best-selling The Happy Camper and his incredibly popular series of paddling guides. He is a notable public speaker and frequent guest on radio and television. Kevin is also a regular contributor, blogger, and columnist for Explorer magazine and Paddling magazine, and has won several national magazine awards. He was made patron paddler for Paddle Canada and has recently won several filmmaking awards. Kevin was listed as one of the top 100 modern day explorers by the Canadian Geographical Society. And I'll let you share now, Kevin.
Hey, how's everybody doing? It's a real honor for me to be here tonight. And the reason, well, a lot of reasons, but two main, raised and born there. I worked for the Halton Regional Conservation Authority for many years in fish and wildlife, in forestry, and I worked at Brennan Creek Park as a naturalist. And yeah, so it's so fantastic to go to the norm, to go to the familiar. So I'm glad to present to you guys. And also, I'm so glad to present to you guys. This is my last talk of the spring tour. So I started in February and I finish now. And then after this, I do a bunch of other things. But to end on a club like this is really important to me. You all do amazing work. I am known as the happy camper, the canoeist. I go and do guidebooks and stuff like that. But actually, my other job for many years is I've been
not from my telephone, but
oh, what happened?
I don't know if you can access it.
Oh, you can hear me?
Was talking over you. And Bradley, you need to mute yourself.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay. So yeah, to end my whole speaking tour with a group of people that are dedicated to do incredible things, I think it's fantastic. What I'm doing tonight, I'm going to do a quick and snappy presentation to remind you why we like nature so much. And if you ever had that moment in your life where nobody had gone camping or hiking or birding or watching the wildflowers, I'm going nuts right now, going on a hike every single morning, watch the wildflowers, to convince them why it's so great. I mean, really, the only way to convince them is to take them with you. But I'm going to try to show you why we like it and why we all should like it. We're all born from wilderness, every culture on this planet. So I'm going to help you with that. So I'm going to start. Are you ready? I'm going to share a screen. Are you ready for this? Yes? All right. Okay, so everybody can hear me, right?
Doing well.
Right. Yeah, we're good. Okay, wilderness.
Right.
We're good. Edward Abbey said the wilderness is not basically, Edward Abbey said that actually wilderness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit itself. And I gotta say that that's a great comment. But what about wilderness philosophy? Why do we go out, and why have we always gone out? Edward Abbey said, because we like the taste of freedom, because we like the smell of danger. What's really kind of cool, if you go on a camping trip or you go for a trail hike, the loons are fantastic, but if a bear attacks your buddy, you be coming home with that story of the bear, right? It's a given. Why? I don't know. Maybe because we're bored of our mundane life, and maybe we want some zeal in it. I'm not sure, but it's okay to talk about the danger. But it's really important to know about what we really love in there. I prefer a loon call than I would a bear attack. Lindenberg said, in wilderness, a sense of the miracle of life, and behind it is our scientific accomplishments, faded trivia. Who's ever been on a big lake in a kayak in Georgian Bay or Lake Superior, and a big storm comes across and you feel this small? And it's so important to feel that small, because we are. And we have to be reminded of that. But we're really not much on this planet. And I think that's fantastic when a big storm comes by and you're a little scared. I think that's a good thing. Thoreau said, made the plausible claim that in wilderness is the preservation of the world, and I believe that. But actually, who taught me more than all of them is my daughter. Remember when you were a child and you're walking on the trail or a portage and you see a bunch of ants and you sit down and you watch the ants for like hours? Or you pick up a pine cone and try to figure out the pine cone or make art of the pine cone. I'm really hyper, and I spent a lot of my career going from A to B, jotting down where to go and how to go off on canoe trips. But my daughter showed me how to slow down and watch the anthill. I think it's really important that we remember to do that now. All right, what are the 4 senses when you're in nature? Really important. Camping smells, wood smoke. Oh, fantastic. I mean, you know, if you walked into a fancy restaurant smelling wood smoke, they'd tell you to leave, but I think it's the best perfume ever. A newly constructed outhouse. Gotta love that. Smell the cedar, and doesn't smell like anything else except cedar. Morning snow. Doesn't really smell like anything. It's just, that's why I like it. A single malt whiskey in an enamel cup. And a canvas pack, which right now I'm taking out from the storage and I'm waxing it, I'm oiling the leather. It's just that smell of that pack. I mean, it's not my favorite pack, but it smells so good and I can't wait to go on a canoe trip right now. Favorite sounds, loons laughing in the morning. And I live just up from Chemong Lake, and I can see the lake through my window here right now. And I was doing some gardening tonight before the show, and the loons came back. And actually, for the last 3 years, I've had one single loon, but now that has come back with a pair, and or a pair. They're now a pair. And I just stopped everything and just listened. It's fantastic. Leaves rustling under your feet on a hiking trail. Love that. Children giggling in the tent before bed. That is an amazing sound. Rain on the tarp. Yeah, I love the sound of rain on a tarp. Absolute silence. It's probably why I like winter camping so much. Absolute silence, nothing. We're not used to that. And when you get used to it, it's hard to go back to where you don't have that. Memorable tastes. The first sip of morning coffee, that's a given. Fresh fish. Oh, try to do a 20-day canoe trip. And then on day 10, you catch a fresh walleye and you cook it up. Oh, your stomach just thanks you big time. A chocolate bar you found in your pack, the one you didn't know you had, and then you found it on the end of the trip. You're like, woohoo! Clean, cold water. Melted butter on a baked bannock. Oh, love that. Memorable touch. Sand on your bare feet. A squash mosquito, even though you've only killed one and there's millions around you, you think you got them beat because you killed the one. Fluffy down sleeping bag, especially at night when it's like a night like tonight, it's going to get cool, not cold, and just to cuddle up in the sleeping bag in the tent. A morning skinny dip in the lake. Sorry, love skinny dipping. It's fantastic. Could tell you endless stories. And dry socks. Love dry socks. All right, so when you're on a hiking trail or you're on a long portage or long canoe trip or whatever, you always have a song in your head. It's just a given. And you got to make sure that you listen to really good music before you go. You see the sun here is on the way there. That's like, there, that's better. When you're on the trail, to make sure that you actually have a good song in your head. So here's some good ones. Like, I love John Denver. Always have, ever since I was a preteen. Yeah, kind of weird kid, but, and great music. Here are songs you should not have in your head on a long trail or portage. I remember I did a 28-day solo trip, and I had "Who's a Barbie Girl in a Barbie World" in my head the entire time. It drove me nuts. So avoid listening to those. The great movies that you should watch before you go on a trip. I love Lucy Ball, the long trailer. It's a great one. My Side of the Mountain. Yeah, great movies. Here are movies you should avoid watching before going into the wilderness. What's really weird about Deliverance is that it came out in 1972, and it's an odd movie. It's a really good book, by the way. You should read the book. It's a fantastic book. But canoe tripping increased in popularity by 54% after that movie came out. Who knew? Here's that movie, African Queen, when they're going down the rapids, and Bogart said, "How do you like that?" And Hepburn said, "Like it." And Bogart said, "Why water rapids?" And then Hepburn said, "I never dreamed." And then Bogart said, "I don't blame you for being scared one little bit. Nobody with good sense ain't scared of whitewater." But Hepburn says, "I never dreamed that any mere physical experience could be so stimulating." And I don't know what that is, but when you're doing whitewater or you're doing a big mountain hike, it's just you're like, why am I doing this? You're questioning yourself. And then when you do it, you want to do it again. Here's a trip down the Mississauga River, which is a local river just north of me. And it kind of talks about that.
A chain of lakes with a bunch of portages, that can make a great trip. The river, it's more of a journey. You're part of the river. And as you flow down the river, you see the changes. Like now I'm in more like a savanna swamp with red maple. I've left the rock and the rapids. More to come down here though, but it's going to change again. But yeah, river is a journey. It's a story. And look at that! It's right out my back door. I gotta love it. Yeah. Oh. You getting out?
Okay, that was a really cool trip, by the way. I have lived up on this hill for about 6 years now in Bridgenorth. So I went from Milton to Peterborough, now in Bridgenorth. And I didn't know when I bought this place. I got a good deal on it, a very small place. Used to be a horse barn. But my laneway is the old First Nations portage out of Chemong Lake. I didn't know that until the librarian told me. She showed me pictures of it. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool to go get dropped off in the north part of Kawarthas and then paddle back to my house and then portage up the hill just to say I did. I don't know, so I did. It's fantastic. So about going out on trips, whether you're backpacking, hiking for the day, canoeing, kayaking, winter camping, you really need good group dynamics. I mean, you will love the sound of the loons, you'll love the whole idea about out in the woods, but if you don't like the people you're with, or if you don't like yourself, you're doing a solo trip, then things can go wrong. And I got to say that it's probably about 80% of the trip to make sure that you go with people that connect with the things that you connect, or at least you discuss what you want out of the trip. I think that's really important. Always keep things in perspective. You know, I'm not a survivalist. In fact, I was actually asked to twice actually to audition for that show alone, that the Wilderness Survival show. And I'm not knocking the show. I watched it, but I just kind of giggled. I went, I'm the happy camper. Why would I do that? And they were, well, what kind of gear would you bring to survive? I went, a good camp chair, good food, good humor. Like, sorry, I'm not doing that. If I had to survive, I would, but I'm not doing it for a TV show. And what's really funny is like this guy, Ashley, one of my neighbors, he went on his very first canoe trip with me, and this scene is for real. He was so afraid of being out there. We're only out for 6 days, but he was so afraid of being out there. He actually didn't poop. And I go, Ash, you have to poop. Like, just chill, just relax. And he couldn't. So funny, he had to. And this was a day 4. Like, this is day 4. I don't know how you can hold in for 4 days. But he went back to use the outhouse on Dixon Lake in Algonquin Park. And a massive storm came down and wiped all these trees around him. And he never did go. All right, always communicate with your partner. I always find that actually kayakers, and I do this as a joke, but kayakers are canoeists that never really got along with their canoe partner. Because if you think about canoeing, you're stuck in the vessel with that same person all day. You have to communicate, unless you go solo, which is probably why kayaking is not a bad idea. Don't be afraid of the unfamiliar. The last probably 10 years of my life, I've been trying to do things different because I teach at the college part-time. I teach in fish ID, bird ID, ecosystem skills, and that's my background, even though I'm the happy camper. But what I do on my other side, basically to pay the bills, is I actually teach part-time students that are at risk actually to show them what a bird is and what a tree is. And what's really lovely is I'm breaking out from there, or even canoe routes. Like, I went to Scotland and went on the Spey River, and I'd have a clue what the trees were. Or I'd go to Mexico and I wouldn't have a clue what the trees were and how do you even get a fire going there. I think that's really important for everybody, is to break apart from what you know to actually learn. I think that's really important on a trip.
Ellie's still a bit of upset about the whole day. You want to tell everybody why she's upset?
Because she got bitten and eaten alive, and she puked in the boat.
Yeah. Deer flies, nasty. I've never seen deer flies so bad in my life. There were so many deer flies in the Portage along the Petawawa River. Ellie got bitten so bad she started vomiting afterwards, and she's still a little bit upset about it. But other than that, it was a good day. Okay, what did we find, Kyla? It's been there for a long time. Is there anything inside?
Just a tree.
No.
No, please.
Okay, so that was a trip I did across Algonquin. It was a 12-day canoe trip. I think my daughter was 8 at the time, maybe younger actually, but she's been canoeing with me for, well, she's a wee baby. And it does really matter. It's magical. So I know a lot of you know this, but if you don't know it, or if you need to be reminded, having a child being connected with nature the moment they're born is so important, because it really ricochets when they get older and they deal with things in their life. My daughter now is 16 and she's in grade 11, and you can tell times on a canoe trip has really helped her through some issues in her life. I mean, this kid went on a 12-day trip well, actually she went on 12-day trips well before she was 8 years old. But on this particular trip, we're going across Algonquin Park and we're on day 8. And I don't know if you've ever been on a 12-day canoe trip or a hiking trip for 12 days, but you don't really know it's day 8 on day 8 at that point. You don't know it's day 5 at that point. Maybe day 3 you'll know it is, but what happened was there she is in her cutoff shorts and her t-shirt, and she meets these guys, you know, they're dressed in military camo, and they're not in the military, and they got big machete knives, and they're like, we're gonna survive the wilderness. And they see her going across the portage singing, and they're like, hey, how long have you been out for, little girl? And she goes, I don't know. I have no idea what day it is. Well, we've been out for 2 days. We're going to do one more. And she said, again, this child of mine said, you need to get out more, guys. Okay. That's all I'm saying. And she just walked by. I just loved it.
Are you cozy?
Very cozy because just my thing is any old blanket, but no, it's a poncho, waterproof poncho. I can be a jellyfish.
I'm not sure where she gets the sense of humor from. I'm not sure. Just saying. All right. Don't get blindsided by too much detail. I was on a podcast the other night, and we really talked about a lot of gear. Like, people like talking about a lot of gear. I like talking about gear. I collect camp stoves, and I get all that. But they said, what's the best thing that ever happened to you when it comes down to camp gear? And I said, well, when I was robbed. So I did the Saugeen River, and I had, at that point in my life, I was doing a bunch of guidebooks. I had all the top gear, and the Saugeen really wasn't a big trip, but I was doing a huge trip north of Quetico after that. And someone robbed me and of all my gear except my canoe. And I remember that day, I thought, I can't go north after this. I don't have anything. And a friend of mine said, well, you know, you have old gear that you used to use, like, you know, all the crappy stuff that you used to use, and you could use that. And I did. I actually went out for 25 days on a trip using that gear in a safe way, right? But sometimes we get so involved in what we have as opposed to what we're doing. I think that's really important. Remember, no problems, just solutions. That helps a lot on trip, because things are going to go wrong and they're going to be frustrating. You're going to break a paddle. You're going to put a hole in the boat. The tent is going to get a spark on it. The fly is going to get a spark on it. And if you always remember this, remember, no problems, just solutions, you'll get through it. Learn to adapt. How to deal with bugs. Put a bug net on and drink Chardonnay through it. That's what I'm saying. I think it's important, though, that you adapt to your environment. There is a certain point where you'll be more used to that environment than you will be at home. So I average, especially when I was writing my guidebooks, well, I'm still writing, whatever, but 60 to 70 nights in a tent. So my norm by the end of the summer was in a tent. And I had a hard time coming back to reality. Driving the 401, I mean, to me, that was dangerous, not paddling in the wilderness. Face your fears, really. Phobia. You are definitely going to be afraid of bears, bad weather, and everything else, especially the first night, second night, third night, because you're not used to it. But really, when it's all said and done, of all of the things that have happened to me in the woods compared to what's happened to me in civilization, I would take the woods. Well, I don't want to go camping, Kevin. A bear might kill me. Look at the stats. Look at the statistics of you driving to Algonquin Park and getting in an accident on the highway compared to a bear coming in your camp and actually killing you. You're going to spend your entire life worried about that, and you're never going to go out in the woods. So don't lose sight of your goals. You need goals, because when things go really bad, you're really tired, you need someone to say, at least someone in your group saying, well, you know, we need to get to the campsite, guys. So, but I would say before a trip, make sure that we all set our goals. Like, if you even do a day hike with everybody, let's say we do the Bruce Trail and we all go out. Let's say we all agree that we're going to look and photograph wildflowers. And then there's one person in the group that just wants to hike as fast as they can. take no pictures, no nothing. They just want to hike as fast as they, and that's fine. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But that person should not be in the group that wants to take photos all day. It's just like, it's a totally different concept. Be a team player. We all need to be a team player. Even if you're doing a solo trip, be a team player. Make good uses of everyone's skills. When I do a trip, especially with my students at risk, whatever, I say, look, hey, John, you're really good at putting the tarp up. Put the tarp up. Jill, you're really good at putting the food bag up. Yeah, that's great. And that's good for a few days. And then I switch it up with them and give them another skill that they don't know anything about. But I don't do that the first few days because they're really phobic to be out there. So it's really good that they actually get comfortable in doing skills that they're comfortable with. And I'm comfortable because I'm giving them skills I know will get done. But then after a while, you need to learn more skills. But don't do that right away. Really important. Take time to put your feet up. Really important. It's so rare now for us to relax. And you would think right now we would be relaxed because we're, in a pandemic for well over a year. We've been locked down. We've been, how many day hikes I can do? But we're still full of anxiety and stressed. And it's because we haven't learned to adapt to that and relax. We always think that we have to do something. And in today's society, especially me, I work for myself. So I always think that every single day I need to work. Why do I have to work every day? So yesterday, I actually took the day off and I went on a full day hike with no camera, no nothing, and just hiked and looked at the wildflowers and learned 3 of them that I didn't know anything about. Campsites are really important. You'll do a portage, you'll do a hiking trail, you'll do whatever, and you'll hate it sometimes, but you'll forget it. But you'll always remember the beautiful campsites that you'll always have. To the ends of your day, you will remember your favorite campsites that you've been to. Tarp is more important than a tent. Tent is a doghouse. You go there to sleep. Don't spend your time in a tent weathering a storm. Deal with the environment. Immerse yourself in the environment. Put a tarp up, get a fire going, get tea going, get whiskey going, whatever, and communicate under the tarp. Yes, put a fire under the tarp. A lot of people say, oh no, you can't do that. Yes, I've guided for many years. If you got a tarp going and you give them bush martinis and hors d'oeuvres under a tarp where it's downpouring rain, that is far better because they'll immerse themselves with their environment and not be afraid of it, as opposed to actually going in the tent and waiting for it to be over. If you're going in the tent waiting for the storm to be over, you might as well not even be there. Bug shelter, absolutely. This is your saving grace in May and June. I remember getting this device years ago. My buddies, oh, we never used to use that. Well, okay, whatever. And I put it up and I go in there and I make a tea. I get away from the bugs and they would beg to be put inside. Eat really well out there. Don't eat gruel. Don't eat that stuff you buy at the store and like, don't. I dehydrated today. I'm making eggplant parmesan for my first trip. And dehydrate your own meals. It's cheaper. It's better for you. I don't know. And if you make a fancy meal for everybody, again, they feel more comfortable being out there as opposed to they're trying to survive and eat gruel until they can get home and eat well. Like you don't, if you think that pattern, then yeah, you'll never really have fun out there. So I dehydrate all my own meals. Actually, that's a really good meal. Chickpea, spaghetti sauce, and peppers. Oh yeah, and sun here. Like, oh my Lord. Here, moving over here. Oh, that's better. All right, that's better. And I bring a reflector oven or an Outback oven, but lately I've been bringing a reflector oven. And on day 5 of a 10-day trip, I'll take a day off. So that night, I always stay, whether I'm backpacking or canoeing, I'll stay in one site for 2 nights and I'll clean my clothes, clean my body. I'll bake bread, I'll bake pizza, I'll bake muffins, I'll bake a pie, blueberry pie. And it's just sort of to relax and then continue on as opposed to keep pushing. If you do that for 10 days, 20 days, yeah, it becomes a marathon race as opposed to enjoying it. Is it dangerous out there? And we've talked about that already, but yeah, it is. Things can go wrong, especially when you're bringing a child out there. I remember taking my daughter out when she was, gosh, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old. We did an 8-day trip, and you know, my mother would say, well, whatever, what if something happened? Well, I had the communication devices, and I knew all that stuff in case something happened. But she choked on a gummy bear once on at the campsite, and I put her upside down and banged it out of her, and it was fine. And my mom's afterwards said, well, what if she choked on that? I went, well, if I was in the kitchen at home, she would have choked on it the same as out there. I don't know, like, for that child not to be immersed with wilderness right now, to watch her in the woods, she goes into her happy place, gets her journal, and she writes her journal, looking at the loons while I'm getting dinner ready. And yeah, that's her happy place. And is it dangerous out there? Well, sometimes maybe physically, but mentally it's far more dangerous for us not to be out there. Oh yeah, bears. Yeah, I'm actually terrified of bears. I mean, this bear in the middle right here, terrified of him, because I was on Lake Superior. I was on a solo trip that's along a beach on Lake Superior, and it was noon, and he's coming in. And because that's my background in fish and wildlife biology, I knew that bear was coming in for my food during the day, and he wasn't afraid of me whatsoever. And I scared him off, and it didn't work. So I had to get all my gear put together and then paddle off. But this bear here, that bear walked right past my site in Quetico through the night. I never knew he was there until the morning. And obviously that bear came through my camp, found out there was nothing there for him, and just kept going on. This one here, the same thing. It actually tried to get my bread, and Charlie, a First Nation elder that was with me, he said, well, you know, the bear knows it's afraid of you, so stand your ground. So I threw a rock at the bear, and I didn't mean to, but I hit the bear, and the bear did a full frontal charge on me. And Charlie just found that hilarious. He goes, you know, you need to stand your ground. So I did. So the bear took off, and then it stopped in my canoe. This is on Missinavie Lake, and it just started bashing my canoe. And Charlie to this day said, oh, it's a hilarious moment.
What's going on, Andy?
Well, we were running from a rabid bear. So we came over a small portage up over a ridge. When we landed, though, Kevin saw a bear in a tree, and then the tree started to fall, and the bear came scrambling down. And Kevin, I think he was in the middle of hanging a leak, and his pants fell down. He started running with his trousers around his ankles. It was mass hysteria, pandemonium. But I think the bear went away, and so now we're coming up this creek. There's been lots of rain, so the creek's high. And I was just spying to see if I could see Bill and Ann coming, and they are now. So the bear didn't get them. They're all good to go. Duck away.
That was on a far northern trip, on a 5-week trip actually. And it was a bear encounter, but it was more funny than anything. Yeah, it is a buggy place, and it will be buggy soon. In fact, I was out yesterday, the black flies would just come out. They weren't biting yet, but they're coming out. I just live 2 hours south of Algonquin. How to deal with them? Don't go out in June, maybe. But if you do go out, it's all a mental state. Mosquitoes especially find you by your CO2 emission. So the more frenzy you get, the more agitated you get, the more they find you. So if you have your peace with them, I mean, they're still going to get bad, but they're not going to be as bad.
We got.
Oops. Oh, shoot. Okay. I'm going to show you this one bug scene.
We got quite a few portages. Would you say 3 kilometers? No.
5.
Oh, 5. Really?
Almost 6.
Okay. We got almost 6 kilometers of portaging to do. Today we had just over 6 kilometers, actually under 7 kilometers yesterday. This is our story of walking through Algonquin Park.
Actually here to encourage us. Come on, guys. You can make it. It's a good trail.
All right, that video, basically, if you want entertainment, go to my Casey Happy Camper YouTube channel and watch my trip around Algonquin. I wrote a book on it called Once Around Algonquin, and it's called The Meanest Link. Don't ever do it. It's crazy. So you basically go around Algonquin and connect to all the Algonquin outfit posts. It has 102 portages, 68 kilometers of portaging. The record is 7.5 days. We did it in 3 weeks because why would you do it in a record? I don't know why. But we also did it in early June, and the bugs were insane. And I'm so glad my buddy is still talking to me after it. Why we did that trip? We both turned 50. This a few years ago, and hats off to the people that were doing it as a race. But I just don't believe in racing through the wilderness. Why would you want to do that? So I did a thing for CBC Radio, and I said, look, I'm not doing this as a race. I'm going to immerse myself and enjoy myself doing this trip. And I was on all the time. And I'll end with this funny story, and I'll show you a really nice video, and then we'll have question and answers right now. But what happened, I can't make this story up. There were a few people, actually the majority of people thought it was great what we're doing. There were a few people that actually despised us doing it, not as a race and not traditionally as what they thought we should do it as. Or whatever, it was our trip, I don't really care. And so they were on social media. I didn't know this at the time because I was in the woods, but on social media, they were calling me the Lucifer of Algonquin. I shouldn't be allowed in Algonquin. But one of them even took one step more. And at Cedar Lake, I did food drops along the way. And they got to my food drop, and my food was there when we got there. This is actually, I don't know what day it was, probably a week and a half into it. Food was there, but the whiskey that we had to keep going was gone. And they didn't do it as a joke. I mean, that's a funny joke, but they did it maliciously. I found out later. And I was on CBC Radio across Canada, and I said, oh, for the love of God, this is terrible. Someone has taken our whiskey out. We can't survive. It was kind of joking, right? And I said, please help us. All these people from all over paddled into Algonquin to deliver us whiskey, like everywhere. We get to the portage on the Crow River, the lower Crow River, which is insane portaging. And we get to a portage, there'd be a flask of whiskey. Way to go, Kevin and Andy, keep going. And yeah, it was so bizarre. So bizarre. It was a good trip though. I'm going to end this with a short video just to entice you about going out. I know we can't do overnights yet. We will eventually. And I know you're hurting right now, so this might make you get through the next few weeks.
It's a long ride down a rough road to the drop-off where we unload. But the end of the train is where it all begins. When my paddle takes its first step, it's so easy to just forget that other world I was so invested in before my wilderness journey. From the sunrise to the sunset, rolling my eyes, it's a sure bet. New adventure awaits round every bend I'm turning. And I don't care where I'm going, just that I'm there in the moment. Taking every ember that's burning on my wilderness journey. Rocks and roots, rocks and roots. Sure do a number on my socks and boots. If pain goes with pleasure, well, there's no substitute. For ankle turning, blister rubbing, shoulder burning, toe stubbing, loud cursing, puddle jumping, rocks and roots. Beyond the signs and the tire tracks, past the point where I don't look back, there's a place that calls to me, where the wind and water speak. And keep it wild, leave it free, for those who walk here after me. From the desert sands to the glacier lakes, I'll make my mark, leave no trace. I hope the waters you cross are calm and still, and take you to where you seek. Should the wind start to blow just where it will, may your paddle be true and deep. I hope the skies above you are always blue, and your journey will flow downstream. And should the currents rise up to challenge you, may your paddle be true and deep. And know you have a kindred spirit to guide you on your way. In the silence you can hear it, just a breath away. When your travels have ended and taken you far, and all your wishes are in your reach, may you look back and wonder and know that your heart and your paddle were true and deep.
All right. So does anybody have, let me put the chat on. Do we have chat? Yeah, we have chat.
Yeah. Do you want me to ask the questions, or do you want to read them yourself, Kevin?
Probably best you ask them.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to ask you one. So Nature Guelph has been trying to think about diversity, and in Guelph in particular, we've had a lot of new immigrants and very, very new people, a lot of Syrian refugees, and the land that they come from, the wilderness is a dangerous, dangerous place with guns in the bushes and dangerous animals, and they don't want to go in the wilderness. So do you have any suggestions of a really easy, what's a good intro to the wilderness for people who've never done that?
Yeah, take them out for the day. I did that. Well, I've done that many times. Well, a lot of my students too. I'll take out, and they love it once they get out there. You have to understand where they're coming from. Like, to sleep in a tent is not a good thing for them. Like, that's a negative thing, right? But they do really want, the ones that I've dealt with for quite a while, they want to do the Canadian thing. That's why they came here. They wanted to rejoice Canada. And take them canoeing. There's actually a video clip I did on my Casey Happy Camper where I took them all canoeing for the day, and they're singing their camp songs but in their own language, and we had a blast, absolute blast. And then I've taken them on overnights and stuff. It's just a phobia, just like all of us. They have to get rid of the phobia, and you have to embrace them, because really they're now part of the stewards of Canada and our wilderness. So we need to take them out and get them to rejoice it. If they keep afraid of it, that can't be a positive thing. So yeah, so do everything you can to volunteer to take them out. There's a group I take out. We get a bus full in Toronto. We take them up to Algonquin just for the day, and I do tree ID, bird ID, and they're all thinking, well, we're going to get eaten by a bear today. I went, no. And by the end of the day, they're like, when are we going again, Kevin? When are we going again? So.
Okay. So we do have some questions. The first one, I guess, inspired all by the bug pictures. Do you find camp smoke keeps the bugs down?
Yeah.
Is that a useful camp? Is that a useful thing?
Yeah, it's called a smudge. First Nations people have been doing it for years with it when they didn't have DEET. It does, and I mean, it's not pleasant because the smoke is in your eyes and stuff, but the more smoky the campfire is, the more the bugs will keep down, and the more smoke you have on you, and the more you stink. If you have deodorant or soap on, they'll find you like you wouldn't believe. It's also not good for bears too. They like the smell of deodorant and soap. So yeah, so smell as bad as possible, get some smoke going, and that will keep them down. That bug shelter though is phenomenal. It far beats smoke on the fire. So they're hard to get right now because of COVID and the pandemic. Nobody can find one right now, but if you can, beg, steal, and borrow for sure.
And someone is asking, what kind of fish was that in the last part of the video clip?
Yeah, that was bass. And whether you were an angler or not, I got to say, like, my dad, when I grew up in Milton, he introduced me to the woods and camping by going fishing. And so I love fishing, and he would come out of his grave and go nuts on me if I didn't fish those lakes. So, but I go out for 20 days or more, and if I go for a 3-day trip, I'm going to put all the fish back, whatever. But I know eating fish is really good for your stomach when you're eating the dehydrated stuff. That film was done on Naganosh. That is a fantastic area. It's actually east of Parry Sound and west of Algonquin. And it's a non-operating park. I'm pretty sure next year or the year after, because so many people are going there now, they're going to make it an operating park, but it's a free roam. There's like tons of lakes to go to, and it's full of bass and pike, and full of like, and you can camp anywhere you want. It's fantastic, and it's so close to actually Toronto. I'm not sure why they haven't made it a park yet. So.
And someone is asking for your favorite cooking stove: Firebox, Coleman, Trangia.
Oh, I collect stoves, so gosh. I like the Trangia because the concept of it, nothing can break on it. Like, it can't fall apart. It's a fondue set. But the negative of the Trangia is that once you get the water boiling or the fish frying up, just so, I find that you run out of fuel, so you have to take it off and then put more fuel in. I think that's the only thing. And also, you can't see the fuel burning because it's alcohol. So you really have to watch it. I have a container that actually puts it in with a valve that the flames can't go back up into the canister. So that's, I have it here somewhere, but that's a good thing. White gas I used for many years because I think that was probably the best to use for, not environmental wise, but the butane containers. Like, I use a jet boil, and I love the jet boil, but a few years ago, when everybody had that open canister of butane, they would just toss it in the outhouse, right? And parks were going nuts on that. Now there's a recycling system, you can do that. But so I used the white gas stove. The old, oh gosh, someone help me here. What's the old stoves with the canister inside?
Coleman?
No, the Primus.
Permis,
stove.
all right, permis.
I collect those. What else do I have? So what stove is best? Stick stoves. I collect stick stoves, but one of my favorite is the Kelly kettle. I love to boil water. I got it right here. So Kelly kettles from Ireland, and they use this in the UK a lot. So basically, you get the fire going in here, and then the water goes in here. So the water is actually boiled around the perimeter, and then the flames come up here, so like a chimney. So this will boil water in 2 minutes flat. It's unbelievable. But to get to fry fish and stuff, that you can put something on top, but it also has a hobo stove adapter, and then you put your frying pan on top of this. Love that. That's fantastic. I think a firebox is probably one of the best stoves, the fire or stick stoves to get things going, but it's the heaviest stove. The Kelly kettle is the more bulky of stoves, so I wouldn't really take it on a really interior trip. But what I will do is I'll take one of these, the hobo stove, and I'll use a trangia. So I'll use this for a stick stove, but if it's raining for days on end and there's no dry fuel, I'll use the trangia with alcohol in that, and that's a good substitute.
How do you help an 80-year-old get in and out of a canoe? Are there any tricks for as we age?
Yeah, I'm 57, and just last year, maybe because of COVID, whatever, I'm not in shape like I used to be, but I find getting out of the tent, lying in the tent is fine, but getting in and out of the tent, and also getting over the packs into the canoe is a problem. Get your feet wet. Don't try to do a dry entry or dry exit when you get to camp, and just realize that your feet will always get wet, and do what the camps do. Like when I worked at camps, we never try to keep our feet wet. We just walked in the water, put the packs in, and then got in the canoe that way and dealt with it. And then when you get to camp, take your boots off, dry your feet, put dry socks and sandals or shoes on. That's probably the best. And also, just don't be in a hurry. Last year, I went across Killarney for the anniversary of my book for 30 years. I thought it was really cool, and I thought it was a really great story. But then 2 days into it, my back went out, and like it went really out. Like I've bad back issues for many years, but if you ever dealt with a bad back, like it was done. And I was in a panic, and I had all this sat phone, and I had this spot device I could call in for help, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I did have a lot of medicine in my first aid kit my doctor gave me to deal with any of those ailments I have. Like I deal with vertigo, bad backs, and things like that. So I know my doctor well, and he just gives me the prescription because he knows I'll go off for many days. And I drug myself up, and then I dragged myself out the next day, and I dealt with it. But at the same time, I don't do the things that I did 20 years ago, and I'm okay with that.
Do you have any tips for a first-time solo canoe trip?
Yeah, go more than 5 days. If you go for 2 nights, you'll be scared silly the entire time, and you wonder why you're even out there. After day 5, you're like, oh, I don't know, it's day 5. I know that sounds crazy, but try it. And yes, Bill Mason said that it's very dangerous going alone, but he's never heard that from anybody that's done it. And what he meant by that is, when I go out with groups, especially guys, they have this sense of, we're all right, we're fine, because they're with everybody. Well, then they do stupid stuff like throw a hatchet at everybody. Like they just stupid stuff, right? When you're by yourself, you think you're going to die every minute. So you're so conscious of what you're doing that you're actually safer by yourself than you are with people.
And Patricia's asking, where do you prefer to go, provincial parks or on Crown land?
Both. And I've said this answer a lot, and I know some people would say, here he goes again with this answer, but it is the true answer. My favorite place that I'm going is the next place I'm going, whether it's Crown land or park, or I go to Scotland again, or I go somewhere else. I think planning a trip, going somewhere different, is actually the excitement of it. And whether the trip is not good at all, at least I go somewhere different. But I gotta say, at the end of the day, I prefer going to Crown land because I'm a Canadian citizen. So for 21 days, I can go wherever I want and camp wherever I want. And over the years, I know some incredible routes that people don't go to. And right now, I think it's fantastic that these people are going out camping, but I do know that there's quadruple the amount of people going. And for my sanity, because I deal with a lot of things with people at my job, when I want to go on a solo trip, I'm going to go somewhere where I won't see anybody. And I know crownland spots, not even that far north of here, that I won't see anybody.
What brand of footwear do you recommend for a long canoe and portage trip?
Yeah, so hiking boots, very controversial. People would disagree with me, but this is what I do. Ankle high hiking boots, solid hiking boots. So some people would say, well, they're solid hiking boots, so if you flip over in rapids, they'll stick you to the bottom. I went, yeah, but if I flip over on a solo trip, especially with sneakers on or sandals on, and I flip my ankle, I'm done. And that I would have more of a problem doing that than I would if I flipped over in rapids. So solid boots, and I do not try to keep my feet dry throughout the day. I just walk right through the water.
So how do you dry off at the end of the day?
I take the boots off as soon as I get to camp. Yeah, it's a thing I've done. As soon as I get to camp, boots go off, socks go off, dry my feet, get my stick stove going or my whatever stove I have, and I get tea going, and I rehydrate with tea, especially if it's a really warm June day. I find hot tea really cools your body down. And by that time, my feet are dry, and then I put my sandals, or if it's really buggy, I'll have some moccasins, or I'll have some sneakers on, and I'll put those on for the night. The only problem about that is in the morning, you have to put those wet boots on again and wet socks again. And, you know, in off seasons like spring and fall, it's like, oh, but.
So someone's thanking you for their presentation, saying how much they enjoyed it. They ask if you have a website geared towards nature and if you are still doing outings with people.
Yeah, so, okay, so I have a kevincallan.com website. Probably the best is to go, I have two Facebooks. There's Kevin Callan Facebook, and then there's the Happy Camper Facebook. I think a lot more people go to the Kevin Callan Facebook because it shows where I go every day and what I do. And I have Instagram too for Casey Happy Camper. But I have a YouTube channel that if you haven't seen it, I think you'll really enjoy for various reasons. But Casey Happy Camper on YouTube. And I do a whole bunch of trips and stuff like that, but I also do a lot of ID. So like I teach how to identify fish, birds and stuff, and that's my background. So a lot of canoeists don't know that that's what I do for a job, teaching that. So what I've done lately, especially during the lockdown, I've had here's a fish ID class, and then I have a quiz at the end. And lately, the last 2 weeks, I've been going out and doing the whole spring wildflower ID, and I think I'm up to video 4 on that. So it doesn't get the views that all my canoeing and stuff does, but it doesn't matter to me. Like, I enjoy that. I kind of keep me sane by showing people what all the wildflowers are right now. So that's probably the best way to get information on that. Yeah. Did I answer the question?
And the other question was, do you still do outings with people?
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't guide anymore. I guided for many years. I stopped guiding when my daughter was born. I do take students out still, but I don't guide for a guiding outfit. But I do outings for volunteers. So if you know anything about Halliburton, Hike Halliburton, so I volunteer for that. And also I do outings with them on how to winter camp, I'm doing a thing this summer, once the lockdown stops, on how to be a happy camper canoe tripping. So you go there for the day and I show you how to canoe trip and how to pack gear and stuff like that. I also do hikes on tree ID. So yeah, Hike Halliburton, I do a lot of stuff with them as well. So yeah, I've been volunteering with them for years.
Okay, thank you. Quick question, quick answer, barrel or canoe pack?
Well, both. So I keep all my gear, like my tent and my sleeping bag and stuff, in a canoe pack, whether it's a canvas pack or a nylon pack but I always put a waterproof sack in it. And then I keep all my food and my kitchen stuff in a barrel.
Okay, thank you. Someone is saying the Eureka no bug zone should be back in stock sometime in June.
I hope it does. And right now on
That's
their
what someone
website,
said.
yeah, I hope so. It's a saving grace. And actually, the funny story about that, Jim Stevens from Eureka, Canada, he just retired, and he was a friend of mine. So it just retired, and he ran that whole place. And years ago, you know, him and I would go canoe tripping together and fishing together. And I said, "You got this bug shelter you use for campgrounds?" I go, "I'd like to take one in the interior." And he goes, "Well, why, Kevin?" I went, "Because there's bugs." And I go, "But I don't want the poles and stuff like that we use at the campground." So I brought it, and all my friends made fun of me. And then I went back and I did a video and an article on it, and they sold them like endless, right? Because everybody's like, "Oh, this makes sense." You can go into a shelter and get rid of it. I remember doing the meanest link trip around the Nipissing River. Bugs were insane. A moose, a bull moose, wouldn't leave the campsite. We're trying to say, "Hey, we want to camp here." He urinated on the tent spots where we're not camping there. So I put the bug shelter up by the river. We went in there and had our single malt, and without, "Hey, we might as well just sleep in this thing tonight, not the tent." And we counted 8 moose that passed us through the night on that river, walking up and feeding. It was an amazing experience.
And the next question is, where do you buy a Kelly kettle?
Oh, what's the best place for you guys? The Canadian Outdoor Equipment sells a ton of them. What's the?
I think Lee Valley has them.
Lee Valley, yeah,
I've
Lee
seen them
Valley
at
has them.
yeah.
Yeah, Lee Valley has them. Canadian Outdoor Equipment has them, and you'll be addicted to them. They smell like a steam engine. If anybody is old enough to remember in Milton, the Milton Fair, when they had the steam era, and we'd all gather on the street and the steam engines would go down, and that smell, that's what the Kelly kettle smells like when you're cooking it.
And someone's asking for a good dog canoe locations. Where's a good place to go canoeing with your dog?
With your dog? Well, it all depends. Like, you can take your dog anywhere, but
And
I
they're talking
generally
about multi-day trip.
yeah, I would generally go on Crown Land with a dog, because if you go to a busy park like Killarney and Algonquin, the dog's going to have to be on the leash all the time, because you know you don't have to respect everybody else's rights, right? But if you want your dog to run off a bit, go with a place where you're not going to see people. So Noganosh, Chinnacucci, up by Sudbury, the Sturgeon River, the Algoma area, Dunlop Loop area, all those Crown Land areas. And what I do with my dog, well, it all depends on what kind of dog you have. I have a golden retriever mixed with a border collie, and she's well behaved in the canoe. So, and I use the dog whistle, and she loves it because she's a border collie, right? So I give her commands, and I make sure that she takes her gear. So she has her own pack, and she loves it. I put her pack on because she gets a treat if she goes across the portage with it. So I give her a job to do. And I also put a red bandana around her because she's black. So I don't want, if anybody ever saw her, I don't want her to think she's a bear. I have a bear bell on her, so you can hear ring, 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 ring while she's running along. I also, in the canoe, I put a foam mat, and I glue that foam mat in. So when I'm doing whitewater, I go to the mat, and that dog knows that, because it's full of anxiety going down whitewater, go to the mat, and she lies down, and she's good. In the tent, I do the same thing. Okay, go to the mat. And if you train your dog like that, the dog loves that part of it. Like, it's not like it's a terrible thing to do with the dog. The dog wants to be told what to do. It's a pack animal, right? And so, but I just wouldn't take a dog in Algonquin Park on a busy portage and let it go wild on you know, wildlife and people. One of the worst things ever, I remember going across the portage in Killarney, and someone's golden retriever went into my pack. So I went across the portage, came back again, and it ate all my chocolate bars and was eating all my food. I went, what the? And it had nothing to do with the dog. It had to do with the dog owner, right? I was like, why would you let your dog do that?
And we have a couple questions on how do you find Crown Land to
Yeah,
camp?
really good question. So the simple thing for you, it's not easy at all. Okay. There's a Crown Land Atlas. Like, there's a whole bunch of ways, but there is a Crown Land Atlas the government has that will show you where Crown Land is. It will take, you would have to be a mathematician or genius to figure this program out. What I did do, and other people did as well. Pine Martin on his site, he does a really good job too. But just recently, I put something on my KC Happy Camper, how to find Crown Land, and I walked through the entire process of how to figure out, knowing if you can camp there or not. Like, where is it? How do you get there? And then if you can camp there or not, because some places in Crown Land you can't camp, right? So go to that, and it helps a lot of people. I also show if you can camp, and also what fish are there and what fish are stocked there and things like that. And so that's a good one. The other is basically the one thing you need to know about Crown Land is that it is like a fishing hole. So once I found a spot that I really like on Crown Land, I worked really hard to find it. I'm not going to tell a lot of people. It's a secret spot. Like, it's not a provincial park. So I worked really hard, like years, to find a specific place. I'm not going to go on social media and say, here you go, because I want you to work just as hard as I did to find it. And once you find it, that's fantastic. It's like a trout hole. So when you go online and ask people where the Crown Land is, you're not going to get a lot of people telling you. And I hate to say it, but that's a good thing, because right now, if we have the masses amount of people going to Crown Land where you can camp for free for 21 days anywhere, you're going to have a lot of unethical people out there doing something really bad.
Do you have any recommendations for rain gear? There are so many to choose from.
Yeah, way too many, actually. Gore-Tex is great, but eventually doesn't work. You have to wash it and make sure it's Gore-Tex actually, and all the other stuff too. It's good when you overheat, but if you really, you can just buy a rain jacket from Canadian Tire in the early spring and late fall, and it will probably do you better than actually Gore-Tex, and it will cost you a lot cheaper. Just don't wear a poncho. So you can wear a poncho if you want. They're cheap and they're lightweight. But of all my experience, I've seen, well, I haven't seen, I know of 3 people that have drowned with ponchos. So one in Mississauga, he actually drowned just ahead of me. I was going down the Mississauga River, and some guy solo was ahead of me, and he went down this rapid, and he flipped in the rapid, and he was wearing a poncho, and the water churned up like this. It kept pushing him down with the poncho on. So, it's like the washing machine, death machine, right? So I wouldn't do that. But what's best for rain jacket? You're going to get wet after a while. It's like you can buy a $500 jacket or a $20 jacket. You're going to get wet. Just make sure you have merino wool. It's not a brand of wool. It's a type of wool, and that will keep you warm once you get wet. Merino wool is a lightweight type wool. It's very expensive, but once you buy it, you'll have it for life. And it's very lightweight, and it actually reduces your odor. I don't know why. There's some micro thing that's going on there, but if you have a Gore-Tex jacket or another rain jacket, but merino wool to get in afterwards to keep the chill down, I think that's more important. But you will get wet no matter what rain jacket you wear.
What do you do for drinking water on the long trips?
I always filter my water. I prefer the gravity filter, especially when I'm with students, because it's like the cattle trough, right? I mean, they're not going to pump the water, they just end up not pumping it. So I use the gravity filter, and I hang it in the tree, and they all gather to get water. I will bring the iodine tablets or the water tablets in case that thing doesn't work anymore, because the filter might not work. But I never ever drink water out of the middle of a lake or a stream. And some people may totally disagree with me on that, and that's fine. You do you, I'll do me. But in today's society, you're going to get something out of the water no matter where you are. So I always filter my water. Now, I wouldn't go to the point where, so in Ontario, you just need a charcoal-based filter. You don't need anything fancier than that, because it's just bacteria, protozoans that you're getting, like Giardia lambala, which is a single cell protozoan that gives you beaver fever. But viruses and Algonquin, I wouldn't worry about that. If you're going to Amazon, yeah, but yeah.
And someone's asking, what types of pots and pans would you recommend that you could use both on a camp stove and on a campfire?
Yeah, I use both. We had this great argument last night with my friends. I have, over here, yeah, I do. So my camp stove or my camp pot, this is what I use on my camp stove and my fire. And people are like, oh, well, why would you do that? Because if you put it on the fire, obviously it's going to get all charred. But if you put it on your stove, it's not going to get charred. I went, and the whole controversy is, well, you should clean all that charred off. Like, it's nice and clean inside. But I went, no, actually, I keep it black like this. First of all, it smells really nice right now. Oh man, I wish it was camping right now. But your water will heat quicker if you keep it black. So if you keep it dirty on the outside and black, it will actually cook up quicker. So I use the same pot for my stove and my fire.
Okay, and I think we're coming to the end here, but someone's asking, this is political, what do you think of the higher fee structures for parks?
I've been on the media so much lately on that. Yeah, I think it's really a bad move. Personally, I've been fighting it on. I think I've done over 50 radio shows, and I was on national news with it. I'm not knocking Ontario Parks. I actually really admire so many people that work in Ontario Parks. A lot of my past students work in Ontario Parks. It's just the system that's going on now. If you have a large group, it makes complete. If you don't know what I'm talking about, where this question is about, what they did right now is they're trying out this new rate system. So when you go to a campground, whether you're by yourself or with a group, you're going to pay the same amount, right? So they're like, well, why don't we do that in the interior? So they're experimenting with Mississauga Provincial Park and also Temagami now. So it used to be like $9. Let me get this straight here. It used to be $9 per person. So if you were with a group, that would cost you a lot of money. So a lot of camp groups were like kids camps or whatever, like, well, this is crazy. We're not going to Ontario Parks to go on a canoe trip because that'd be costing a fortune. So they did a flat rate. So if you have 9 people, you would only pay a certain amount, like $36. But if you're solo, you're paying $36. So if you add that up, you're doing a 20-day trip in Temagami by yourself and you're paying that much money. That's a lot of money. But if you're a group of 9, you're paying the same amount. So it's good for the large amount, but it's not good for the solo or even actually the young couple. And actually over 30, I would say 35 to 37% of the people going off in the interior right now are young middle-aged couples. So they're not going to go. They're going to go somewhere else. And, Ontario Park, sorry, but if you're not getting them to go to your park, then that's a bad business sell. And if you're actually getting all the people that are in groups of 9 to go, well, then they're going to leave more garbage. Well, I shouldn't say that they will, but the assumption is there's going to be more trash left behind as opposed to that solo paddler. That's my personal view. I hope I didn't upset by it, but that's what I think.
I think we have come to the end of the questions. If anyone's any more questions, put them up quick. I don't see any more coming up. Well, thanks a lot, Kevin. That was an excellent thing. Now, you gave me a teaser before people that came on about a YouTube video you made that featured a puppet doing bad things. Is there somewhere we can watch your video of a puppet doing naughty things in the woods?
So like I don't have to show you guys tonight. It's a 2-minute thing, but just to make you giggle, this would be hilarious. And just imagine everybody in my life right now. I think too much, whatever, but I know there's going to be a lot of people going out right now. And I think that's fantastic. A lot of people are against it, but I think it's fantastic that people are going out. But this is not a new thing. It's happened during or just after World War II, during recession, where all these people go out to soothe their souls and their bodies because of whatever's going on. Well, because of COVID, that's what's going on. So at those times, things were done to educate and enforce, but to educate people not to do unethical things. There is a film, look it up tonight, 1972. Ontario Parks created a film called Crickets Make Me Nervous. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it tonight. It's it's hilarious. It shows you what a camper should not do, right? I love that film. I think it's fantastic, but I didn't really see anything. I mean, eventually Ontario Parks is going to do something, but they were not doing anything yet. I go, well, I'm going to do something. So I created a 2.5-minute video with Gary the puppet, which is doing everything wrong at the campsite. And it relates to Crickets Make Me Nervous. I put it up yesterday. It's called Gary Makes Me Nervous. It is really odd, everybody. But when you're watching it, remember, if you are a person that doesn't put garbage and stuff at the campsite, you're I don't want you to watch it. I want the people that are doing it to watch it. And that's my mentality when I created it. Don't be a Gary. Just watch it. You'll like.
And is that on your YouTube channel then?
Yeah, go to KC Happy Camper. It's probably my second last loading. I actually did one today on Mayflowers and things like that. So more serious stuff and how to identify that. Yeah.
Well, we'll all go look for that and share it around and get it out. Well, thanks a lot, Kevin. This was fabulous. I know this was one of the talks that most of our members were looking for the year, and we really enjoyed it. And it was great seeing you virtually, and maybe we'll all see each other out in the woods again in 2022.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, and love your area and really love it. That's familiar to me, growing up in Milton and working at the conservation authorities and Fish and Wildlife and banning birds and stuff. Yeah, I always go back. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks a lot, and we'll hope to see you again.
Thanks a lot. Good luck, everybody.
Okay, right. Bye-bye, everyone. Right, bye-bye.